got drunk at my wedding, and made out with the best man. My husband and I got married 2 months ago. Girl, 2 months? My husband's family is Christian and they are very strict. My mother-in-law chose my wedding dress. During the planning of the wedding, my husband had his best friend with him at all times. And during that time, I caught his best friend staring at me several times. Every time we caught each other's eye, we would just stare at each other for a few seconds and then look away. The night of our rehearsal dinner, he came up to me and asked me if I was stressed. I responded by saying yes. Then he offered me a drink. My husband doesn't really like me drinking, so we went to the bathroom and took shots together. It was actually really fun and exciting, and we both hit it off that night. If you're wondering if I felt guilty, no, I did not. We ended up drinking 3 shots each, and he almost kissed me. At least I got the feeling. The attraction between us was palpable. Our wedding was the next night, and I couldn't stop thinking about his best friend. As I was getting ready for the wedding, he came and knocked on my door while the makeup artist was doing my makeup. Oh my gosh. And said that I looked so beautiful, he couldn't believe it. That's when the makeup artist asked him to leave and said, the groom can't be in here. That's when I said, that's not the groom. That's my husband's best friend. The ceremony goes off without a hitch and we go to the reception. This is where it gets juicy. My fiance and I had practiced a dance for us to do for the guest, but he refused at the last minute. I instantly get upset at my fiance, walk straight up to his best friend and ask him if he wants to dance. We get up, start dancing, and instantly my husband gets up to dance with his cousin? Ew. That's when all the guests jump up and join us on the dance floor. After 30 minutes of dancing, he takes me by the hand, the best friend, takes me by the hand and walks me outside. Suddenly we're alone and he kisses me. The butterflies in my stomach went crazy and we couldn't stop making out. Luckily, nobody saw us. We went back to the party and pretended like nothing happened. Oh girl, something did happen. After spending 2 weeks in Greece with my husband for our honeymoon, I was completely unhappy. A little background, we had only known each other for a year before we got married. We had never even traveled together at that point and he was being an absolute nightmare. I asked my husband for a divorce, but he won't give it to me because of a visa issue. What should I do?
Here's a story time about the time my best friend slept with my man and then slept on my couch for a month. You guys have been begging for this. You're like, tell the story time. How can you act just like this and not tell the story time? Oh my god. To preface with, this was a long time ago, not friends with the girl anymore, blah blah blah. I'm gonna keep the story time really short and sweet because I normally go into a really elaborative detail about things, but this one still kind of hits home, you know what I mean? The story time basically goes like this. Me and this girl were friends since we were children. The type of friends that you're just acquaintances, like the type of friends where I gave her 2 beds, I would pay for her to do certain things, take her to her appointments because she didn't have a vehicle, got her a job. We were part of a little trio. We had me, her, and this other girl. I'm not even gonna give them fake names because I do not want you guys to find these girls whatsoever. Her and the other girl were closer than me and the other girl were, but me and her were closer than her and the other girl. Does that make sense? But I was under the dumb assumption that it was working. It was so cute, a little trio. It didn't work. Trios don't ever work. One day, on a nice little Halloween night, I noticed that she is getting really touchy with my man. And it was okay because I was like, oh my god, I love that my best friend and my man are best friends. It's so cute. We all worked together, so it was just kind of we all spend mad time together. Of course they're close. Then I quit the job, but they didn't. And they kept working together and got even closer. To add a cherry onto the little cake that this is, she was dating my man's best friend. We had a little double thing going on. Well, on Halloween night, he isn't texting her back, and she's like, I need him. Not talking about her man, talking about mine. He then slept on my couch and left her underwear in my bathroom, and I kind of cried because I was just I know what's going on here. My intuition was clicking. But if I were to bring it up, I'm a nutso bananas. How dare you assume something like that, you nutso bitch. Well, I brought it up anyways because I am a nutso bananas. To which I was gaslit for a month and a half until I found out that the month that she finally got her license, which I had brought her to, she ended up getting a car and went on a little test drive with my old mate. Guess what they did in the car? Bet you could guess. A month later, the third friend in our little trio was told about this in confidence, and that friend said, if you don't tell Emily, I'm going to tell her for you, so you better tell her right now. So she was scared into telling me this information, was forced into telling me this information. So when I found out, I called her and I said, I am going to beat you and also steal your man. The rest was history. There's so much more to the story. I really don't want to talk about it here. I love you guys so much.
Am I wrong for announcing my pregnancy at my sister's wedding? I'm 32 and my sister is 28, and we've always been incredibly close. Point in case, she was the first person I told that I was pregnant, besides my husband, of course. I told her essentially a week after I got a positive pregnancy test, which was about 3 months before her wedding. I told her I was going to tell our parents and my husband's parents around the 10-week mark, but she told me that I should hold off until her wedding in September. I'd be 4 months along at that point, so I wouldn't be showing really, and she thought it would be so special for her to be able to make an announcement about a special guest at her wedding, and it'd be her first niece or nephew, and my parents' first grandbaby. I agreed because it seemed like it meant a lot to her, and again, we were super close and I was happy to do that for her. Turns out, the first trimester was awful with morning sickness and exhaustion. I would have preferred to be able to talk about it with my mom, but I was willing to grin and bear it for my sister's wedding. Well, the wedding came along, and about halfway through the night, I asked her when the announcement was happening. She told me that she changed her mind and that her wedding didn't seem like a good time or place to announce my pregnancy. I was obviously super upset since I went through a really awful first trimester with only my sister and husband to lean on. I decided I wasn't going to put the announcement on hold any longer just for her. So my husband and I pulled my parents aside and quietly told them to keep it private for the evening. They were thrilled, lots of hugs, a few tears, but a very touching and private moment. Literally, no one else found out until I announced it on Facebook a week later. My sister found out about it the same time as my Facebook post when my dad mentioned how we told him about it. And she texted me and called me who made her wedding about myself. And she hasn't spoken to me since. I've messaged her and apologized probably a dozen times since then, but she refuses to talk to me and now refuses to come see her little nephew who is almost a month old at this point. My parents and partner think I did nothing wrong since she went back on her word and that I should just wait it out and she'll come around. I'm obviously unsure as clearly this has made her so upset with me and we were so close before.
My level of delusion when I was 15 years old was at another level. I was obsessed with Enrique Iglesias. He's actually a Spanish singer. And when I tell you I listened to his songs faithfully, in my head, I was gonna go to Europe, to Spain, he's from Spain, and I was going to marry this man. I made up this whole scenario where we were gonna have 3 kids, we're gonna have a nice house by the beach, in complete delusion. When this man got married, I was so depressed. I was depressed for like 10 days. Mind you, this man was probably like 36 years old when I was 15. Let me tell you another situation. I had a really tough childhood and I was ready to go to boarding school. Like I was telling all my friends I am definitely going to boarding school for high school, but I wasn't lying. I was saying like I really want to go to boarding school. I'm going to tell my mom that she should just send me to boarding school because she treats me like anyways. And the only reason I wanted to go to boarding school is because I was watching this show. It's like a Spanish soap opera of these kids that lived in boarding school. You know, they would go to a boarding school. I begged my grandmother to send me to boarding school and she's like, okay, look up the price. I was looking up the price. I was looking up places. And when I tell you this was thousands of dollars that my grandmother was not going to pay for, or my mother. One more just for kicks and giggles. I met this girl on Facebook. She had my last name as her name. My last name is Salome and that was her actual name. And that's how we started talking. So our conversations were, you know, she was from Switzerland. I lived in Dominican Republic. We talked every single day. She was so nice. And honestly, she was like my escape from reality. Mind you, she was like at least in her late 20s. And I used to tell her absolutely everything that went on in my life. Like we talked every single day and she was like, oh my God, like I'm so sorry you're living such a bad life. Like I wish you could come here with me and live in Switzerland. And I was like, okay, you should adopt me. Again, in my head, I was making scenarios that I was going to move to Switzerland, she was going to adopt me, but she ended up telling me that adopting someone takes too long. And I was probably maybe 16, 17 years old when I told her this. And she was like, by the time all that paperwork is done, you're probably going to be 18 already anyways. I just guess my way to deal with my trauma was being delusional.